one of my favorite beats of the entire year.
Oh, no doubt about
Oh
that.
my goodness.
That was one of our reactions to Trippie Redd's new studio album, A Love Letter to You 5. If you want to check out our full live album reaction on Patreon, you guys can check the pinned comment in the comment section below. A new album from Trippie Redd, especially after coming off of Mansion Music. You and I are big Trippie fans, but we weren't too big of a fan of that album. And now to see him transition into a classic series, give another installment, is always a pleasure to dive into. So guys, let's start off with the artist performance. And I think Lou and I are going to have different ratings for today's review, so different cards. So let's get into this, man. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, first review that we do with two different cards, so that's going to be interesting. But Trippie impressed me in some ways, but at the end of the day, I think that what was cool was the fact that you were getting Trippie sticking to the melodic bag and giving you really nice showcases on something like Praying for Love, for example, where you're getting one of the most beautiful and nice choruses on the whole album. You get these battle cries from Trippie where he's emotionally engaged, he's passionate, and you do get other highlights like that throughout the album. But I think where I take issue with more than anything else is just the song structure that he chooses to go with on songs like Left for Dead or Take Me Away, where you'll get multiple chorus sections and maybe just one short verse, leaving you wanting more and leaving the track to meander and sort of feel a bit flat, to be honest with you. So that was something that I feel like could have been improved. I do like the fact that he brought a lot of energy on the traditional rapping tracks on something like I'm Mad at Me or Took My Breath Away. That was refreshing to get on the album because you have 19 songs, which is another issue for me on the curation standpoint, is that you have 19 songs that sound and feel very similar when it comes to the auto crooning and the over-the-top vocals. And those were nice breaks within it where you're getting that traditional rapping from Trippie. But to be honest with you, there's too many moments like I'm Thinking About You where you have these prolonged vocal notes with even reverb added on top, or you have moments like the song with Roddy Ricch called Closed Doors, where you have Roddy coming in, but before that, Trippie is sort of embodying his vocal presence and even his flows. And then you go to the next song, which is called Action, and Trippie Redd is doing his best Roddy Ricch imitation. You're like, come on, bro, it's not needed. You just had Roddy on the album.
But that's the thing, though, is that I wasn't a fan of Closed Doors. That was something that I feel like was kind of like underdeveloped as far as a Trippie Redd performance that I'm not a big fan of. Even something like The Hate, I'm a big fan of the production on that song, but I do feel like Trippie's flows are a bit choppy and they don't necessarily do justice for the type of production that you might have found like other performances, like example, I'm Mad at You, or even something like Took My Breath Away, where you have these fully developed verses. But for the most part, I feel like Trippie Redd accomplished what he had to do on this album, on songs like Thy Motion, on songs like Take Me Away, on songs like Praying for Love, on songs like Reality. These are really strong tracks and performances for Trippie Redd standards, because if you're a fan of Trippie's auto crooning, if you're a fan of his melodic tracks and that sort of stuff, I do feel like these are on par with what Trippie Redd develops for A Love Letter to You and the whole series as a whole. So for the most part, I don't think it's the most incredible performance in the world, but I do feel like he did what he had to do for this track list. As far as what you were saying about the 19 tracks and it kind of feeling all the same, I agree, but I also disagree to a certain extent, because for the most part, when I was going through Genius, I was looking at all the song structures and I was looking at, let's say, the different performances, and each and every single track is almost different from each other.
I really disagree with that.
As
in terms of production, in
performances,
terms of his performance, very similar, to be honest
I disagree.
with you.
I feel like there's so many different songs that are different from each other as far as that goes. Like, I listened to Thy Motion, Take Me Away, Praying for Love, I'm Mad at You, like Trip McKnight, for example, where you get more of a rage aesthetic.
And how did you feel about getting those outliers, like a Trip McKnight or something like I'm Mad at Me, where you have a little bit of a break from the more melodic bag that you're used to getting with A Love Letter to You albums?
I like it. I like it a lot. I feel like it definitely helped the sequencing and the pacing of the album, and it kept me on my toes as far as the live album reaction goes for my first listen. And even going through more listens this weekend, I have been impressed with it. So overall, I think that Trippie did a good job on this. I'm going to give him a good rating for the artist performance.
I'm going to give Trippie a mid rating. I think that his singing is a little too over the top at times. I feel like every time he attempts a new pitch, he's not quite able to master it. So it's kind of a mediocre performance for me, where there's highs and there's lows. So I'm feeling mid with it, but let's keep on going. Next up with the features on the album, and you have the likes of Lil Wayne on here. You have Roddy Ricch. You have the Kid Laroi. So start off with your favorite feature on the album.
Favorite feature on the album. I mean, listen, I want to talk about maybe Sky Morales on the only verse of A Feeling. That's a really nice performance, has these angelic vocals that comes through. She's a fantastic vocalist. Even her on the hooks of Let's Say Took My Breath Away. That was really nice, the contrast with Trippie Redd. I feel like she did a great job on the album, so I want to give her points there. Lil Wayne on I'm Mad at Me. That's a really, really, really good performance from Wayne. Matches Trippie's energy, follows the content matter of the track. I think that's a W. Even someone like the Kid Laroi on not on Closed Doors, excuse me. I believe this was one of the last tracks here.
It's called Wind.
It was called Wind, yeah. He has a big part to play on this song because not only does he have the chorus and the intro of the album, but he also has a refrain in there, shares a certain verse. So I was okay with the features. I think that everyone kind of did a good job except for maybe like Corbin, for example, on the end of Take Me Away.
Yeah, I'm not sure
like
if it was the way that his vocals were processed, but it sort of came off as like robotic and a bit like amateurish, to be honest with you. So that was on the intro. That wasn't the best. When it came to Sky Morales, I agree. I love her hook on Took My Breath Away. I think that was one of the most memorable hooks out of the whole album. A lot better than a lot of the ones that Trippie was doing, in my opinion. And I just love how hypnotic and dreamy her vocals were on that one. To go back to Lil Wayne, he absolutely fucking killed it over this Just Blaze type production, where he perfectly glides and finds the perfect pockets in between these blasts of percussion. That sounded really high quality. Roddy Ricch on Closed Doors was underwhelming for me because it started off good, but then you reach a point midway where it sounds like he's losing track of his own flow. I don't know if you felt that way.
I'm kind of getting desensitized at this point for the Roddy Ricch features because you're going to come in and you're going to get the same flow, the same content matter. Like, you know what to expect at this point, so there's no surprise factor or there's no element to keep you on your feet. And to be honest with you, it's one of the collaborations that, like you said, I was very underwhelmed with. As far as Bryson Tiller, though,
he carried that
Bryson
song.
Tiller did a great job on Flowers, has the whole second verse, and kind of closes off the song. And Bryson Tiller is obviously the master of playing in between the singing and the rapping and having his vocals kind of flourish at the same time as delivering the rap. So I was very impressed with that. A feature I didn't like too much was Tommy Lee Sparta on Helicopter. I felt like it was completely out of place for the track list, and maybe if you're into that type of sound, it's for you, but for the most part, it's just, I feel like it's kind of useless.
I think that's like the most obvious skip on the album. I feel like everyone can agree that shouldn't have been on this album. But yeah, I just want to give my own love and praise to Kid Laroi because I've been critical of him in the past, but this feature was incredible, bro. He
One of the best
a lot
on the
of
album.
vocal maturity, bringing in this deeper voice. He rapidly shifts between like this regular tone and like this yelling cadence, which evokes his anger and the pain that he's trying to communicate really well throughout that track. So overall, I was impressed with the features. I think they were one of the better aspects of this album. I'm going to go with a good rating.
I went with a good rating as well.
Really complimented Trippie, and a lot of chemistry between Trippie and these artists, especially with Wayne, with Sky Morales. They added a lot to the track list. But let's go on to the content. And I want to start off by saying this. I'm not expecting Trippie Redd to give me the best writing in the world that's going to win him a fucking Pulitzer Prize. I'm not expecting that. You're getting melodic ballads, you're getting slow jams. You can't expect too much substance. But with that being said, I feel like Trippie still manages to be a bit shallow and to not really like expand on the character that he's building or that he's not building, and sort of struggles to really go detailed with the struggles that he's experiencing throughout the music. And I feel like although it's cool to get certain songs like Left for Dead or How You Alive, where he's questioning his own mortality, he refuses to sort of go beyond the surface level for me.
I feel like Trippie did a good job on the content. I'm not going to lie to you. When I went through the writing of the album and I had to be critical with it, I do feel like I've gotten a lot worse performances this year as far as content matters from like trap artists and artists of like Trippie's kind, let's say, and from that generation. As far as album experiences go, I do think that when you look at songs like How You Alive or Last Days or I'm Mad at Me, these are well-written songs with a lot of value. And even something like Took My Breath Away, how he starts off his first verse, I really like the simple writing, but I also feel like it connects to the listener and he keeps it simple and surface level enough so it doesn't get too complicated for what this album is supposed to be. So starts off, oh, I love you like Adam loved Eve. Just promise me you won't leave. When I found you, it felt like I chose peace.
So cheesy. I love you like Adam loved Eve. And I will say that though, for the most part, compared to most Trippie albums, like you're used to getting a lot of corny and cheesy bars. And besides the one of I'm Baby, I'm a Lion, You a Tiger, we should make some ligers, which is on Thinking About You. You're not getting too many of those like outlandish bars
You won't
that
find
make
them.
you turn your head.
And that
But
was something that I did enjoy, though, is I feel like Trippie did a very good job, in my opinion, at keeping a consistent basis on the writing for this album. And he didn't overbake anything. It wasn't cheesy. It felt good for the types of productions that were coming through, and it wasn't overbearing. So for the most part, I think that, yeah, like you said, it's not a Pulsar winning prize performance on the content matter, but he did a good job for what this album was supposed to be.
I think it was underwhelming. I think he could have done more with it. Although I do like the fact that there is like this reoccurring theme of temporary love and how he'll only have maybe one last chance to save his relationship on a song like Romantic Fantasy, for example, or even looking at Last Days. The whole idea of like the clock running out and him having to savor every last moment with his partner. That was something that was cool to see being picked up on, continuously from track to track, oftentimes. But overall, I just feel like he had an opportunity to go a bit deeper, to get a bit more personal with the love content, and he sort of refused to do so. So for that reason, again, felt mediocre about it. I'm going mid with the rating for content.
I'm going to be going good with the content. I feel like he did a good job for what this album is supposed to be, and you have those deeper cuts if you want them. It's not overbaked. It's not cheesy. What else do you guys want? So let's keep going on with this. Let's go on to the production. I feel like this is a lot more of a concise soundscape than what you had gotten on Mansion Music. Mansion Music was just a blend and this massive fucking, like, let's say, smoothie of different songs that didn't even feel finished. And Trippie had later explained that the album had gotten leaked, so he felt like he needed to drop it right away. So it was nice that this album was a lot more concise on the production side of things rather than the last project. As far as the types of producers you guys could expect on this album, you have people like OZ on this, you have Murda Beats, 808H, Baby Kobe, the run of the mill.
The star is Igor Mameh, who has been a big part of Trippie's career since the inception of his career, since the first A Love Letter to You tape. So it was cool to see him have his hands and his grip on this project. And I think the production was good, to be honest with you. I don't think that it was anything crazy. You're getting a lot of traditional R&B type production, a lot of acoustic guitar driven beats, a lot of piano driven ballads as well. I do like the rawness of something like A Prank for Love, which is easily one of my favorites off of here, where you just have some acoustic guitar strings ringing off in a very serene way. But to be honest with you, the beats that stand out the most to me are the beats that aren't really meant for the classic vibe of a Trippie album. It was more on beats like I'm Mad at Me, where you have this beautiful chipmunk soul sample flip, and you have this electrifying percussion that hits, or even something like the outro, Trip McKnight. That was probably a leftover from Trip at Night, but I just love how monstrous that rage aesthetic sounded and how Trippie wrote over it.
Absolutely. Even something like Last Days with the Deftones sample. That was a really nice flip, and I love the way that they calculated the percussions on that, because it gets you into the track as soon as it hits, and they have kind of a lead and an intro. Even something like, example, How You Alive, that was really cool for me, because you're getting these beautiful piano keys that ring off throughout the production, and there's this sort of like stop and go aspect to the production that kind of like makes you feel like you're falling in and out of the beat, and it works perfectly with the content matter. So honestly, I think the production's good, bro. I actually enjoyed it. I think that it is a strong point of it, and it's consistent with the rest of the track list, if I'm being completely honest with you. And like you said, I'm Mad at Me is one of the best beats on this entire album, bro.
One of the best beats of the year for me. I'm not even gonna lie to you, bro.
Think so?
I really love it. Yeah, it gives me that classic Just Blaze feeling. But even songs that I don't even like that much, like Closed Doors, that was a nice flip of Southside by Ashanti and Lloyd. And I think that it was cool to see him take certain samples from older love songs and reinvent them the way that he chose to. So,
and I appreciate that, because a lot of artists try to do that, but they do it in a corny way, and it doesn't necessarily feel genuine to the record. So when Trippie was doing it, or let's say the producers for Trippie Redd were doing it on A Love Letter to You 5, I feel like it was tasteful, it was well calculated for the soundscape, and you did get a consistent soundscape throughout the project. And you do have Trip McKnight, that's kind of like the overlandish sort of, rage aesthetic that Trippie's known for. So good for the production.
Good for the production. We can agree on that one. But next up, we have the replay value on the album, and I'll be honest with you, I sound like a broken fucking record, but when you have 19 songs, you can't expect me to take out 19, especially when it comes to a Trippie Redd release. So there's definitely a lot that I'm going to leave out if not the majority of it, just because I have a lot of these, ballads and these slow jams from Trippie, from older projects that I just prefer. The only outright like horrible song on here I'll say is Helicopter. That's just fucking, it's sticking out like a sore thumb on that track list. So that's an easy one to pick out. But realistically, I'm taking out maybe like 6 to 7 remarkable Trippie songs that I really found on this. So for me, the replay value is going to be mid. I'll probably just run through quickly what I will be taking out of this.
I'm going to go mid as well for the replay value.
Yeah.
Just so we could
I'm going to go with, I guess, How You Alive, Praying for Love, I'm Mad at Me, maybe Wind, It Took My Breath Away, and I guess Trip McKnight, like maybe 6 songs, something like that.
I would do Last Days. I would do Thy Motion, How You Alive. I would probably say I'm Mad at Me. I would do Left for Dead probably, and then I'd probably end it there.
What are your top 3 though on here?
I would for sure do Last Days. That has to be in there. How You Alive, and then I would do. I'd probably do I'm Mad at Me. Yeah. Those are my 3.
Yeah, I would do I'm Mad at Me number 1. Number 2, Took My Breath Away. And 3, Praying for Love. I think that's what it would be for me.
So that's it. Like, as much as I think that there's a consistency within the track list, and I think Trippie Redd fans really are going to like this album because maybe it speaks more to you guys. But for the most part, as you said, I'm not even keeping half the track list, so I can't go over a mid rating if I have to be honest here. And as much as I do think that Trippie Redd was able to step up over Mansion Music and get there, I am only keeping 5 to 6 tracks out of this. So replay value mid for both of us. Let's go into the overall thoughts. So I think Trippie Redd's upgraded. I think he improved off of Mansion Music, and this feels like a good installment of A Love Letter to You. I don't think that he tried to do anything too extraordinary with the performances or the production or the outlandish features, but he kind of played it safe for this album, which I could actually appreciate just because sometimes artists try to overcomplicate things and it doesn't necessarily hit within the track list. As far as my standouts for the albums go, I think that Trippie Redd had good performances across the board. I feel like there was a concise soundscape that was well calculated throughout it, but I'm not going to be revisiting too much because I'm only taking 5 to 6 tracks out of it. So for myself, I'm going to go with a good rating.
And that's the thing is like when you already have gotten so much of this similar style from an artist, 5 albums worth, you do sort of need to be a bit judgmental in the sense of like, well, I already have this many songs that I really fuck with and enjoy from Trippie in this lane. Do I need these other ones that are underwhelming, maybe not up to par with the best that he's able to do in this style? And that's sort of how I feel with this album for the most part, is that Trippie manages to leave you, with an album that makes you feel absolutely nothing, despite it being a journey or dressed up as a journey that's supposed to be about heartbreak and the stress and love.
I disagree with you there.
I feel like there's not enough character development or enough detail to really leave an impact on me as a listener. Apart from that, like you said, I do agree with the fact that he did play it safe, which is not a bad thing. He played into the fanfare. He played into what the fans were missing because it's the first installment in 4 years. I think that his singing is pretty quality for the most part, but I do think that you're getting a lot of similar vocal performances and instrumentals over the course of the 19 songs. And it is a boring and sleepy album experience. This is not something that I would have fun playing from start to finish. And overall, I'm feeling this is a mid album.
All right.
It's not something I'm going to revisit all that much, and I think that Trippie has done better when it's come to the sad boy music and giving you sad boy anthems. I think he's done a better job in other projects.
All right, guys, so let us know in the comment sections where we got it right, where we got it wrong. How do you feel about A Love Letter to You 5? And do you think it was worth the wait after 4 years for another installment? Guys, thank you so much for the recent support on the podcast. We really appreciate you guys. And if you guys do want to see more reviews just like this, smash that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching this review, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.